Yo, what's up guys, we're back for another breakdown and predictions video. This week we're coming off a crazy UFC 296 card. Dricus du Plessis is still the champion in the middleweight division, submitting Israel Adesanya. But this week we actually got a pretty good card in my opinion, especially for an Apex card. And another middleweight battle in the main event that's pretty crucial to the division, with Jared Cannonier coming back pretty quickly after his debacle of a fight in France where the ref kind of stepped in early there, and taking on Borralho, who's 6-0 in the UFC, and finally getting his first UFC main event and a big significant step up and taking on a true contender, someone that's fought for the title before in the Killer Gorilla, Jared Cannonier. So very interesting main event and some cool fights mixing throughout the whole card. And just in general, this week there's a lot of cool MMA events going on. There's a Road to UFC tournament that I kind of looked at a little bit, and there's some really fun matchups there. There's LFA, PFL playoffs are going on, and Contender Series is back, man. So a lot of MMA outside the UFC as well, and you could check that out over at patreon.com/MMA Prediction Guru. And I already got a few bets for this UFC card. I had, I think this is going to be put out after Contender Series card, but had some bets for that card as well. And then already have a bet for the PFL card, and I'm going to be looking into other cards when the lines come out. So there's definitely going to be some action this week on the Patreon if you go check it out. We're coming off a winning week on UFC. We won on PFL, and we lost on Contender Series, so we're going to try to get that back. But yeah, man, let's get in this first fight of the night here. And besides that, just hit the like button. Let's try to get as many likes as possible on the video. Put a comment down below. I'd really appreciate it. I'm going to try to keep getting these videos out a little bit earlier. Yeah, man. But let's get in this first fight tonight. Cong Wang, she's taking on Victoria Leonardo. Cong Wang's the UFC debutante. She's taking on Victoria Leonardo, who's 1-3 so far in her UFC run. And Wang, she's undefeated. She's 5-0. Coming out of China, and she's someone that already has a really high-level pedigree. She started out in Wushu Sanda and was an amateur world champion in that sport, which a lot of Chinese fighters start there. And then she also transitioned to boxing, won a silver medal at the 2019 Worlds in boxing. So she has a really lethal combination of striking arsenals. And in kickboxing, she has an 8 wins, 0 losses, and 1 draw record. So she's never lost in a pro fight yet, MMA or kickboxing. And in those 9 fights, she had a draw with Tiffany Timebomb Van Soest, who, if you know about female kickboxing, she's one of the better female kickboxers ever. And she also beat Neely Block, who's a 4-time kickboxing Muay Thai world champion, and she even beat Valentine Shevchenko as well. So those fights were a while back, and she hasn't had a kickboxing fight since 2018. So, but I still put a lot of stock into that experience and those wins and just her skill level to be able to do that. But she came back in 2022 after not fighting kickboxing or MMA at all, and she had her first MMA fight. She's gone 5-0 since then and had 3 finishes, 2 submission wins, and her grappling looks decent, which is obviously what you want to see out of someone that is coming in as a kickboxer. And she has fought some alright competition as well. So she's actually coming in here with the deceptive record because she beat Wu Yanan, who's a UFC veteran, and she beat Paula Luana on the Road to UFC show in pretty dominant fashion, who's another decent Brazilian prospect. So even though she only has 5 fights, she does have a couple good wins on top of all the other experience that she has. And she's been active, which is a big advantage in contrast to opponent Victoria Leonardo, who she's kind of had a rocky run. I thought she retired, but coming back after a year off, or a year plus, like a year and a few months, and her losses in the UFC have come to really good fighters like Manon Fiorot, Melissa Gatto, Natalia Silva, and her one win was against Mandy Bohm, who's not in the UFC anymore. So it's kind of tough to see her beating someone of this level. I mean, you look at Cong Wang, uh, super fast. I mean, great feints. She's controlling the range so well. She has really good check hooks, rear crosses, and real pinpoint combinations. She'll mix heavy leg kicks, teeps to the body, but really her hands are what are her go-to strikes. And for fighter to beat King, I feel like, or Wang, they're going to have to be an elite grappler or have a great chin, super high volume, and just cut the cage off and make it a war. But I just don't see that happening here. I mean, even on the inside, Kong is very, very comfortable there, composed. She'll throw really nasty elbows. And she isn't a big power hitter, but she has a really high output. And she goes for the kill when she sees you're kind of starting to wilt. And her wrestling actually looks good too. So that's what you would imagine would be her deficiency. And but she's good at getting out of the clinch, working the underhook game. And her grappling looked good in her last fight with Paula Luana. I mean, she was able to catch a kick, bring it to the ground, quickly moved into the mount, got a guillotine, and finished the fight. So if she can continue to progress those skills on the ground, she could be a really, really good fighter because her cardio looks good. Her striking is obviously elite. And if she can grapple, then there's not much that people are going to be able to do to her. For Victoria, I mean, she's evasive and she'll throw a solid jab. She'll mix in some combinations on the inside and try to make it grinding. Her cardio is good, but I just don't really know what she could do here. She's going to try to use her wrestling, but I just don't think she's going to be able to take down Kong. From what I've seen, she's small for 125. I mean, she is really tough, though. Like, she was coming forward in that Natalia Silva fight, even though she ended up getting knocked out in the first round and paying for that. She was very aggressive. But unfortunately, she's kind of turned into a girl that the UFC gives to fighters that they see star potential in, I feel like. And they think that Leonardo's going to be a test, but if you are going to be that next level type of fighter that they expect you to be, you're going to have a highlight reel performance against her. So I think Cong Wang is probably going to get Leonardo out of there. I think she'll be able to maybe have Leonardo hang tough early, but round 2, round 3, I think she'll be able to knock her out or submit her on the ground. So I'm going with Cong Wang inside the distance. If you look at Leonardo, the majority of her losses are via finish. And I just think Kong's going to be pouring it on and kind of overwhelm Leonardo and get her out of there. So give me Cong Wang and get this one done. I'll say round 2 TKO. And for this next one, we got Jacqueline Cavalcante. She's taking on Josiane Nunes. And not too interested in this fight. I feel like Cavalcante is almost 2-1 favorite. Probably about right. Nunes had that win streak that she was on snapped in her last fight against Chelsea Chandler. And Chandler came in, if I remember correctly, overweight for that fight as well. And she was able to kind of blanket Nunes and get the victory. And even if she didn't, she was just way bigger than Nunes and was able to just take her down and control her. And Cavalcante, she's more of a striker. She went in there. She got the win in her UFC debut. And I think that the UFC is kind of trying to grow her here. And I do feel like she should get this victory fairly easily. She has good footwork, good movement. She kind of tries to pick her shots and work the 3-2s, 2-3s off the back foot. She'll mix in some kicks as well. And she does kind of back up with her hands down, though, a little bit. And Nunes with those wild blitzes and kind of looping punches, I'm a little worried she could catch Cavalcante going backwards and rock her. That's the one thing that Nunes does possess, is power. But if she doesn't land that shot, Cavalcante's just going to land more numbers. Nunes is going to be coming forward with that bull-type style, being hittable. And Cavalcante's just going to be dancing around her, kind of peppering her with these shots. And I don't see too much wrestling or grappling from either girl coming to play in here. And I just think that Cavalcanti is probably going to take this decision. But it's kind of a stay away for me because I'm not sold on Cavalcanti, and Nunes goes in there and touches her chin, and I have a bet like almost 2-1 on Cavalcanti. I'm going to feel pretty stupid. So, but as a prediction, I'm going to go with Cavalcanti via decision. And in this next one, we got Slava Borshev. He's making a pretty quick turnaround, taking on James Yontop, who's coming back after his UFC debut, which was kind of a disaster for him. But Slava, he's in jeopardy of losing his job here. He lost his last fight, and he's put on a lot of bangers, but recently he's been getting beat up more often than not. He only has one win in his last 5 fights. He got kind of wrestled in boring matchups with Mike Davis and Mark Jacasey, and came back out that brutal knockout win over Mai Shata, and then had a draw in a really fun fight with Nazim Sadyakov. And his last fight, though, was why people are kind of side-eyeing him at this moment, because Chase Hooper put a beatdown on him, man. He knocked him down. He was able to really dominate him on the ground, and there was a little controversy in terms of the actual finish. I think Borshev didn't tap and the ref just stopped it, but either way, he was just getting worked and took a ton of damage in that fight. So that's why I'm a little bit surprised to see him come back in 3 months. But this fight, he's facing more of a striker, so it's probably the matchup that he likes. And James Yontop, like I said, he laid an egg in his UFC debut. He was a big favorite, taking on a guy that was coming in on like 5 days' notice, but got steamrolled, got submitted in the first round, and there were some bad circumstances going into that fight. Like I said, his 2 other fighters pulled out before his replacement opponent, Chris Padilla, ended up taking the fight, and Yontop missed weight, so his weight cut was tough. He missed it by half a pound, and maybe slacked off a bit at the end of the training camp or right before fight week because he didn't know if he was going to have a fight. But this time there's no excuses, and he needs to avoid going 0-2 in the UFC. But it's pretty obvious what Yontop's game plan is going to be. He can't stand and strike with Borshev at range or in the pocket, I don't think. I think he has to kind of close the gap, dirty box, clinch up, wrestle, at least early on. And it's because he's not that good defensively. He comes forward and backwards in straight lines, kind of a lineal fighter. And I think guys who throw combinations with the way that Yontop pulls back, he's going to be there to get cracked, and Borshev is going to see that and take advantage of that. Yontop is good when he can get you tired and get his hand combinations going on the inside. He rips the body well. He even picks elbows out really good, but I just think Slava's going to be cutting angles and exploding in with counters, and it could be a difficult one on the feet for Yontop. But one thing that makes Yontop alive is that Borshev just doesn't have a good chin. Slava, he's one of the best technical strikers in the weight. He's just chinny. Like I said, he even got dropped by Chase Hooper. And every fight, you have to be worried. If his opponent lands on him clean, he could get knocked out or put down. And he is a great striker, though. He is someone that is very defensively responsible. He doesn't throw a ton at distance. He wants to be in the pocket where he can make reads, start to land his hands. He loves to rip the body. He will slip shots, then come with big left hooks to the body, left hooks to the head, and he's super accurate. He works that right hook to the body very often too. Good right uppercut, right overhand, and he isn't the most powerful guy, but he throws a lot of volume, wears you down, and then can kind of just get you out of there. And I mean, he got smashed by Chase Hooper, but he's shown good get-ups in other fights, and I feel like Yontop isn't going to be the guy that's going to really expose that. And I think Borshev's better on the feet. He has the ability to keep it standing and dominate. It's just his chin. If he gets clipped and knocked out, then I think he should think about maybe hanging it up. But ultimately, I don't think James Yontop is that good. Slava's more proven. He's fighting for his career here. 2 losses, and I kind of like that angle for predictions recently. It's kind of paid off where you got someone that has their back against the wall and needs a win, taking on an inexperienced guy, and I just think the line's a little off. I do think that there's some value on Yontop, but just a pass for me. I just think Slava is going to be the better striker and either win a fairly dominant decision or get a later round, second, third round KO, TKO. And I'm going to go with Slava here. And this next one, we got a fight that I'm not too interested in. Zachary Reese taking on Jose Medina. And Zachary Reese, he showed the world what he's all about. He failed in his debut. He went in there with a lot of hype, had all his wins via first round finish, but the tables got turned on him. Cody Brundage slammed him, knocked him out in a minute and 49 seconds. But his last fight, he got a 20-second knockout win, which was his fourth win inside of a minute, and all of his 7 victories are in the first round. So this fight's going to be interesting because it's a fight between Zach Reese, who, like I just said, is a very quick, dynamic first-round finisher, taking on a survivor, and Jose Medina. I mean, Jose Medina is kind of like a cult hero. He had an epic performance on the Contender Series where he got whooped for 3 rounds, but he did it with a smile and a laugh and his will to fight, even though he got beat badly in all facets. Somehow made Dana White interested enough to sign him, and he did have a little bit of success in the 3rd round, but since that loss, he hasn't fought in over a year, and he's went to Entrim Gym, which is a really good gym, and you have to think he's gotten better. He's dropped some weight. He's coming down to 185. He had that last fight at 205, and he has the heart, so if he can get some solid skill level, I do think he's someone that has kind of a screw loose, and maybe he could get a couple wins in the UFC, but he's never going to be a world beater or anything. And I mean, I really don't know what to think of this fight. Zach Reese is a beast, but we still don't know how he would do in a long fight. And Medina is going to give Reese a scrappy once, and I mean, he should be a little bit better technically himself. Having gone to Entrim, maybe he's a little bit better than what we've seen before, but I'm going to say Reese subs Medina in the first round. I don't really have a technical breakdown or anything for this fight, but I'll just say blitzes him, hurts him, takes Medina down, and then chokes him out or gets some sort of submission and gets the victory here. And in this next one, we got 2 vets. We got Edmund Shabazian taking on Gerald Mearshart. And man, if I had my choices, I wouldn't even break down this fight. Both these guys, I've just had a really hard time predicting their fights, and I've gotten burned by them both multiple times for different reasons, really. I mean, GM3 is a guy that I like to fade, and a couple times when I faded him, he's came back and bit me. And then Edmund, I kind of hung on the Edmund train a little too long and lost some bets that way. So, yeah, man, I'm not going to have a long breakdown or a really great breakdown for this one probably, but we know both these guys' styles. Edmund, he has gotten a lot better with his wrestling defense, but his cardio is still the issue, and on the feet he's going to be a lot faster, more explosive. And GM3's chinny, kind of southpaw, big kicker who tries to stay tough, kind of weather a storm, and then find his moments to either rock you on the feet and then get you down and submit you, or get you down somehow with a takedown, which he's not really the best wrestler, and then find the submission that way. And he's a survivor. He's someone that can get some late round finishes. So if Edmund can't get him out early, GM3 I think is live to weather that storm and get that submission round 2, round 3. But I'm going to just say Edmund goes out there, knocks out GM3 in the first round, being more athletic, being the better striker, being who I think is the more explosive wrestler, and being aggressive early. And I think GM3 is going to get overwhelmed and knocked out. So I'm going to go with Edmund, but not a fight that I'm too confident in, to be honest. And Michael Morales, after 16 straight wins, he's getting the Neil Magny test. He's 4-0 in the UFC, and he's just 26 years old. So if he wins this, he's going to be thrown to the wolves. So it's kind of a crossroads fight here. If he loses, he has plenty of time to regroup, but beating Magny puts you in an elite category. And Morales has beaten 2 good prospects in his last 2 fights, or not prospects, 2 good veterans, but Neil Magny is a slight notch above Jake Matthews or Max Griffin. And I'm sure Morales has been watching Neil Magny on TV for years, and it's a fight that Morales has probably been thinking about. So he has to be mentally locked in, and I think he will be. And If you look at Morales, style-wise, he's kind of a point fighter to me. He has a 79-inch reach, and he's normally much longer than his opponents. This fight, that's not going to be the case, but he's fast. He controls distance well. He will pressure, use the jab to get fighters to throw at him so he can pull counter with the rear cross or a 1-2. Decent check hooks and uppercuts, and most of his offense are straight punches, though. His last fight, he did show off more kicks. He landed a lot of leg kicks, and I expect him to try to do the same in this fight. And Morales can throw kicks to all parts of the body fast and effectively. I would say he doesn't really hunt finishes or throw huge power shots. He kind of just touches and then tries to get fighters to run into punches. He's accurate, so if you're reckless and come face first into straight shots, you'll eventually go down. And that's how he has 11 knockouts, but I really don't think he's a huge knockout artist or anything, and I think super durable, higher level guys are going to be able to go the distance with Morales, but Morales defensively, he's good at controlling distance, kind of sliding out of the way of punches, and he can get clipped going backwards sometimes, and this fight will be a new challenge for him because he's fighting someone with a really long reach as well. And he needs to keep his feet moving, not get pushed back towards the fence. And his wrestling and grappling, we haven't really seen too much of it, but I think he's going to be hard to get in on because of his length, his ability to move in and out. And he's good at digging underhooks, and pretty much immediately when fighters try to clinch him or shoot in on him, he's out of there. And he has been put on his back in a couple of fights, and he looks comfortable there. I feel like if he gets taken down, you'll be fine. And maybe even could stand back up. But Neil's going to be looking to maul Morales, keep him against the fence. So Morales just has to try to either be the fighter pressuring or circling a lot and not getting backed up behind those double black lines. But Morales in his fight with Nikolai Varetnikov, he did get a lot of body locks. And obviously this fight, I don't think that's going to be the game plan. But it's good to see that he can wrestle a little bit. And you look at Morales, he has really good cardio, and he's not going to gas. And most of the fighters who Magny beats get tired. So Morales being a cardio guy is a big thing for him in this fight. And you look at Neil, I think he's going to struggle majorly in the stand-up. He tries to use the double, triple jab to close the distance. He'll throw some leg kicks, front kicks, but he's just not as fast or spry anymore, and he doesn't take damage as well. He goes into a defensive shell when he starts to get clipped and hit up, and he's always had issues with low kicks and fighters who could pressure well. Historically, he's been able to usually take damage, pressure through it, and win decisions against strikers. But I think that's kind of coming to an end here. He did get that done against Mike Malott, but you saw the Ian Gary fight. He got really battered. And in this one, he has to try to push Morales against the cage, clinch him, wear on him. And that's normally how he wins, using his size and length to control guys there. He's not the best wrestler, but if he can get on top, I think he'll be able to have success. But, Morales should win this fight to me. He isn't going to gas. He has good game plans. I think he's going to pressure, use a lot of feints, low kicks, straight punches, just beat up Magny from range. When Magny tries to clinch, I think Morales is going to shut it down pretty quick and not play that game. And Morales isn't someone who's shown his wrestling in the UFC, but he did on the Contender Series, and maybe if Magny is aggressive, mix in a takedown, put Magny on his back, and just let him know that you can change the dynamic of the fight. But more than likely, I think Morales is going to keep it standing and win a decision here over 3 rounds. And in this next fight, we got the Ultimate Fighter finale, Ryan Loder taking on Robert Valentine. And Robert Valentine, this guy fights like he's shot out of a cannon. He usually gets quick finishes in his victories, and he's a beast when he can get top position. His grappling is on point. He has good ground and pound, transitions well, really good submission game. He's long, he's rangy, and he kind of sends it when he attempts submissions or explodes or strikes. He's super, super aggressive, and his striking is awkward. His defense isn't good, but when he lands, he can change fights with one shot. And on the Ultimate Fighter, he has 2 wins. He finished both those fights in the first round. He got a slick elbow knockout in his first fight. It was really a quick finish in that one, and then he got a nice submission in the second fight. And one of those, Valentine's kind of one of those fighters where he's super athletic, he's long, rangy, and just violent. He isn't maybe the most technically sound striker. You might be able to take him down, but he's going to keep pushing forward, and when he sees the opening, he'll take you out. Obviously, he can catch fighters early and finish too, as he's shown in the Ultimate Fighter house, and He has a long reach. He explodes in with these big jabs, straights, uppercuts, and throws a lot of front kicks, head kicks. Defensively, he is hittable, but he takes damage and keeps fighting. In his last fight, he got rocked badly multiple times early and just kind of weathered that storm. He definitely needs to shore up his defense, though, as he goes up in the rankings. And this fight, it could be difficult in the stand-up because Loader's a guy that's a good mover, has good counters, and I don't think Loader has much power. But if Valentine doesn't respect him, he could just walk forward and, Loader could land one of these check hooks or rear crosses and hurt Valentine. But I do think that Valentine does need to, even though I just said if he doesn't respect him, he could get knocked out. I think he needs to show a lack of respect somewhat, because I think Loader likes to fight pretty fights, and Valentine needs to just close that gap, not get fear of getting taken down or getting clipped, and just try to make it a brawl. And I think if he does that, it'll open up him potentially getting a submission or getting a knockout. And Valentine, though, he's at his best on the ground. He's really aggressive with his transitions. Like I said, slick submissions. He pushes a high pace when he's on top. And even if he's taken down, I have seen him get controlled, but he's good at, eventually scrambling the top position and then going to work. And I feel like he's going to welcome Loader taking him down. He just needs to be worried about if Loader can kind of get in that wrestling ride position and just wear the timeout. That could potentially be a path to victory for Loader. And you look at Valentine, he's one of these guys that he's only 1-3 in fights that have gone to the third round. So he's not necessarily the best at winning decisions or winning fights that go that late. But Ryan Loader, former college wrestler, he's a good athlete. He was a 4-time NCAA qualifier, and he stayed around the sport. I think he is currently an assistant coach for San Francisco State, and 6-1 in MMA. His one loss was a A1 combat title fight, and he also got 2 wins on Tough. So really, he's 8-1, and you look at Valentine, he's 12-3. But Loader, he's mobile. He uses that long, narrow stance, and he likes to throw a lot of kicks on the outside, and then he'll try to throw the check hook or the straight right hand, pull 2 overhand. He doesn't have the best hands, I don't think, and I feel like if you can get on the inside on him, he floats his chin. He doesn't seem the most comfortable there, but if he can keep it on the outside and kind of just pick at Valentine or catch him as he's coming in, he's going to have success. But Loader, I haven't seen him really blend his wrestling that well in MMA yet. He's a fighter where usually when he goes to take you down, it's going to have to be when he could push you against the fence. When he can get the clinch, he's good with the body locks or chaining together and eventually going down to the legs and taking you down. But he's not necessarily the best at timing shots in the open mat, which I think could be an issue in this fight. But like I said, if Loader gets on top and kind of get that mat return game going, I think that's how he's going to win. His cardio is pretty good. And his last fight, he took over in the third round in a 1-1 fight to get to these finals. So I feel like I'm slightly leaning with Robert Valentine, but I don't have a super confident prediction. I feel like skills-wise, Loader's a little better, but ultimately Valentine's violent tendencies, his athleticism will will the win for him. Loader's going to be more technical on the feet, and I would try to use that check hook right hand, try not to get backed against the fence, and then wrestle when Valentine gets close. But I think Loader doesn't have much power, and Valentine is reckless. I feel like Loader likes pretty fights. He carries his hands low. I think Valentine's going to blitz in, either get that club and sub or force a bad shot out of Loader and then eventually create a scramble and submit him. And I'll say a second round submission win for Robert Valentine wins him this Ultimate Fighter Championship. And in the co-main event, we got Angela Hill taking on Tabitha Richi. And Angela Hill, she'd become the ultimate gatekeeper. She's a super hard out. She's 39 years old, but better than ever. Her last fight, Hill got her first submission win, which I'm sure was a huge feather in her cap and confidence booster for her. Overall, Hill's won 2 fights in a row. She's won 4 out of her last 5. And if she makes it 3 wins in a row, she could get another main event opportunity. And I'm sure that's on her bucket list, man. I mean, she's 0-2 in main events in the UFC so far. So winning a main event is something that Angela Hill more than likely is going to want to have a chance to do before she retires. But Tabitha Ricci is a good fighter, but someone who's only had 12 fights, and Angela is probably confident she can use that experience to dominate like she has previously against similarly experienced opponents. But Tabitha Ricci looking to break into that top 10. She's ranked 11th right now. Angela Hill's 9th. And Ricci just beat Tecia Torres, who's a fighter who's from Angela Hill's era, and beat Angela Hill twice. And Tecia Torres was coming back off a pregnancy. It was a close decision, so Ricci still has room to grow, and that's why this fight is pretty much a pick'em. It's a great tester fight for Ricci. If Ricci can defeat Angela Hill, she's definitely going to establish herself as one of the best 115ers in the world. And it's a good matchup because it's a solid class of styles. Angela Hill, she needs to pressure, make it a high-paced fight. She needs to force exchanges, try to feint fake to make Ricci open up and just get tired. And if this fight's a war, I think it's going to be Hill who's more composed and has the better cardio. Ricci has a style that Hill has struggled with in the stand-up, though. Ricci can fight off the front foot or the back foot, but I expect her to be looking to use her faster feet, moving, cutting angles, and then exploding in with 3-2s or 2-3s in this fight. After she lands some punches, she can try to mix in the takedown or at least some clinch control. But Ricci just needs to have the cardio to be able to move for 3 rounds. If she could do that, I think she'll have the faster feet and hands. She doesn't have the power of Mackenzie Dern, but she needs to sit down and throw hard like Dern and see if she can hurt or get respect early from Hill. The clinch battle is going to be competitive, and Hill is really strong, so maybe she will be able to slow the fight, clinch, and wear on Ricci, maybe steal it down the stretch. But I think Ricci is going to have the ability to mix it up, shoot on the legs, and if she can get the hands going early, she can get the takedowns going late. And I'm going to pick Ricci to win a decision here. So I think this is a good fight and a fight that could potentially be close. And obviously a lot of Angela Hill's fights play out to be like split decisions and things like that. But I'm going to say Ricci uses that up-down style and faster feet, faster hands to win a decision. And in the main event, we got Jared the Killer Gorilla Cannonier taking on Kyle Borralho. And Cannonier is back headlining another UFC show less than 3 months after his last fight. He had a potential title eliminator with Nasrin Imavov, and he started well. He won the first 2 rounds, but Imavov did kind of look like he was taking over. He won the third, was winning the fourth, hurt Jared Cannonier, and Jason Herzog stepped in way too early, and the fight ended in disappointing fashion. And many will contend that Cannonier was going to lose anyways, but it would have been 2-2 going in round 4 if Cannonier survived that round, and he should have been given the opportunity to see if he could have made it to round 5. And now Cannonier coming back quick. I'm sure he wants to get that bad taste out of his mouth, and he needs to get this big win and in order to stay in the mix here for the title shot. And Kyle Borralho, first main event for him. He's 6-0 in the UFC so far. He's beaten some tough guys who aren't really the most known, like Armen Petrosyan, Makhmud Muradov, Michal Alexeychuk, Abus Magomedov. Those might not be the top guys in the division, but they're still impressive wins. His last fight, he got a knockout win over Paul Craig, a former top 10 light heavyweight. Now he's looking to finally crack into the top 5 of the middleweight division. And it is a big step up for Kyle, though, which makes this a dog or pass fight, at least in my opinion. Jared Cannonier, if he weren't coming back quickly after 3.5 rounds of fighting, taking some damage, a 5-round training camp, it would be a confident bet for me at this price. But with the circumstances, it makes it more dicey, and I think that's why the line has a little bit of a, built-in bigger number for Borralho. But on the feet, Cannonier is going to be coming forward. He's going to cut the cage off. He's going to force that inside fight, which is his game. Switch stance, boxing combinations, long combos, heavy leg kicks, using his size and his power, throwing a lot of volume. Kyle is lower volume, and he's going to be trying to move a lot, use that footwork, dart in, dart out with the straight punches. I assume he's going to be trying to fight southpaw a lot because it seems like that's been a bit of an issue with Cannonier in the past, and catch him with those straight punches, be fast, be technical, be sharp. And Kyle's good at throwing those lead leg attacks, trying to stay busy with that, but Kyle hasn't really shown great boxing or great power. I feel like he'll get overwhelmed if Cannonier can close that gap and get inside on him and cut off the cage. So the fight's going to come down to the double leg of Kyle. If Cannonier can defend a couple of those doubles and start to overwhelm Kyle, I think he could get him out of there or win via decision. But if Kyle can get him down a couple times, I think he'll be able to control Cannonier maybe a little better than previous opponents. But I feel like Kyle's going to have to rely on the stand-up for this fight like he did versus Abus and Paul Craig. At 85, Jared's just been really hard to take down and hold down. He makes fighters pay for taking him down early, and then weaponizes his cardio and then finishes when the moment arises. And I feel like 5 rounds of wrestling Jared hard is going to be tough for Kyle. So I think he has to be ready to strike a lot in this fight. His last fight he got a knockout, so I'm sure he's more confident in his power. But this fight I expect him to want to be evasive as possible and mix in the takedowns, but just do it at the right times. But, I feel like this fight being in the United States does help Cannonier. Like his last fight going to France, that is a fairly big ask when you're that age to fly over there and cut weight. And like I said, Jared is going to be hungry to get a win after having one in his mind stolen from him. And I personally think the line should be closer to a pick'em. I feel like if Jared can stuff the takedowns and start to cut the cage off, it's going to be his fight to lose. And we haven't seen Kyle in a 5-round element. We haven't seen Kyle with someone that has the ability to pressure an inside fight like Jared. And I feel like against Mihal and against a couple other guys, when they were pressuring him, he didn't look the most comfortable. So early on, Kyle could get a double or two, be evasive, but I just think Cannonier will start to pour the pressure on and either win a decision or just... I think Kyle's going to be tough to stop because he's going to move a lot. I could see him shooting and kind of trying to lull Jared into following him to the ground, and he's going to have that undefeated in the UFC mentality that he doesn't want to get finished. And the Fighting Nerds have been killing it, man. It's really hard to go against their camp. But I'm going to go with Jared Cannonier in this one and pick him as the underdog here because I think the line is off. I feel like it really should be a pick 'em. And I think it's a really big step up for Kyle here. So I'm going to go with Cannonier to pick up this victory over Kyle Borralho. And there you have it, guys. That's a full card breakdown and predictions video for UFC Vegas 96, UFC Fight Night, Jared Cannonier versus Kyle Borralho. So thanks for watching. Hit the like button like I said at the beginning of the video. Let's try to get as many likes as possible. Go to patreon.com/MPredictionGuru. Support the channel. Make yourself some money. Get access to some more cool content. And besides that, man, for my most confident pick on this card, I'm going to go with Cong Wang. And I was going to do a parlay that included Danny Silva, and then I saw that Danny Silva got pulled from the card. So I haven't looked into that new Dennis Bazookia matchup that much, but I'll let you guys know with that soon. I'll do a video on that, but I'm going to give you guys just a play of the week now, and it'll be in Morales by decision at plus 105. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll be back soon. I'm going to be doing more breakdowns, predictions this Friday. I'm going to be trying to jump on that live stream, so come and join us there, man. And besides that, thanks for always watching the channel.